everyone, and welcome to the My Ray of Sunshine podcast. My name is Mayra, and I'm here to help you receive the advice you deserve. Now, if you all are here, it's probably because you want to know exactly how you can embrace being your most vulnerable self. You heard that right. If you're listening to me, just picture me wearing pajamas right now, no makeup. And if you wanted to see that, go on my YouTube channel and check it out because I am my most vulnerable self. Literally, usually, for every podcast episode that I would record, even though I always record late at night, My Ray of Sunshine records at nighttime, what? But even though I would record at nighttime, sometimes when I was crazy, I would do my makeup after work or something, knowing that I would record late at night. And then that way I had a full face of makeup on. I would pick out my outfit, and that's how I would record. And I was so close to doing that this time. Literally so close. I was like, okay, I'm going to record a podcast. I didn't even plan this, okay? Right now it is, what time is it? 10:41 p.m. And this is honestly the best time to podcast for me. But I did not plan on recording an episode tonight whatsoever. Hence my pajamas. I am not prepared. But I thought that this was the best part of it because, it goes with the episode, right? So, if you're here, you want to know exactly how to be your most vulnerable self. And that's why I'm here, to tell you exactly how to do that. Now, if you really think about it, okay, we never are our most vulnerable, ever, okay? No one says their whole life story upon meeting someone, upon a, hey, what's up? Oh my gosh, thank goodness you asked. I've been waiting to tell you about this moment, blah, 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 blah. No one does that. You kind of ease into it. Sometimes it takes friendships years to figure out your true self, or months or days. It all depends on chemistry. There's no perfect timing. Unless you feel comfortable, that's when it's a perfect time. And so the reason it was brought to my attention that I was going to record an episode in this very moment is because I was in my feels. Because I saw a post from a podcaster, and I'm so sorry. I will shout you out once I get a chance to look at my phone and see which podcaster it was. But I saw a post, and what they helped me realize was that it takes a lot for someone to talk about their struggles. And sometimes you have to do that in order to not only help mend yourself, but to help yourself feel less alone and help others feel less alone. And that really, not gonna lie, got me very choked up when I saw the post. It was just one silly post. Great post. But I was just immediately oh my gosh, could this be? And they were looking for guests to talk about their story. And I'm like, okay, this would be only for their podcast episode if I were a guest on theirs. But then I'm thinking to myself, why? I have to be real on my podcast. I preach it. And I want to share my story. As weird as that sounds. To me, at least. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes. There's a lot of struggles. And I think that it's important for you to talk about it and to heal from that. It really helps if you talk about it, listen to yourself talk about it, in order for you to heal and proceed with your life journey and put things in the past. You know how people say the past will always be in the past and never look behind you, you never need to worry about your past or just leave things in the past because you always have to move forward, keep pushing forward. I've always said that, like, keep moving forward and never give up. That was literally quote unquote what I said in high school when I made a speech. And I think that's because we're so, like, scared to look behind us. We're so scared to reflect on our past. We're so scared about like all the trauma that we face perhaps in our lives, where it's just like we keep suppressing it. We keep just proceeding with life as we should, because it shouldn't stop us. But that doesn't mean it's not there, and that doesn't mean that someone else isn't going through the same exact thing. And that's what I want you guys to realize. We're all going through something. And we may not necessarily know everything about every single person's life. It just might not be the case at all. And that's why I really wanted to talk about this, because I remember years ago, there was a show called If You Really Knew Me on MTV. And I don't know if anyone has watched that show, but I remember them specifically going to high schools, talking to all the popular girls, all the nerds, all the jocks, everyone. And pretty much everyone gets to tell their story. So you realize that, like, the popular kid has a rough life in their house. They have a really broken family. And you wouldn't even expect that, because they're the popular kids that bully other kids. Like, I hate using the terms like nerds, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was a nerd, I'd say. But, like, I'm just using those general terms as, like, a way to kind of categorize the type of people and how that affected a lot of people's experience in high school. So when that show in particular would visit high schools, I remember they would just draw out an iceberg. That was the first thing that I remembered, was how they drew out that iceberg and said, we only see the very tip of it. And that's only 10%. And that's only what we allow people to see, is that 10% surface level. That's the kind that, like, sometimes we don't let other friends see beyond that, because everything is underneath the water. Everything is what we suppressed for so long. Everything is just our past, our traumas, our fears, everything. And we may not feel comfortable to share all of that because it's vulnerable of us to do, and not many people do it. So I just remember seeing that diagram and I'm like, wow, I never knew how real this is, and how applicable it is to life in general, how we just build surface level relationships, friendships, and then it doesn't go past that 10% because we keep it there, because it's our safe spot, because we're comfortable with them not knowing all the juicy details. And perhaps we have trust issues, perhaps we don't, and share too much. It's like we only share what we feel comfortable with the people that we're surrounded by. And sometimes, moments don't, like, you're not just going to randomly tell someone your whole life story, but it just has to be the right time, the right person, the right place to do that. And I just realized that, like, all of us, we just all really do have our own stories, and we all really do struggle a lot, and it's okay, because I'm with you. I'm not perfect. I don't want to come off on my social media as the ray of sunshine that has everything in her life figured out, that is happy all of the time, because that's not the case. Like, if you saw my breakdowns, You would see it in my episode of How Can You Ask Someone for Help? Which, to be honest, is my favorite episode because I was the most real and the most vulnerable and I loved it, and I was wearing a shark costume, okay? It was around Halloween, that's why. But yeah, so I really never want to come off that way to anyone because it's not true, and I don't want to live up to that expectation of being perfect. Which is why I'm breaking that right here, right now. I am imperfect. I'm weird. I'm emotional. I am sensitive. I can be very goofy. I get so hangry. And I can go on and on and on and on. But bottom line is, I feel like more and more people need to be okay with being 100% themselves. And I'm not saying like you have to tell everyone everything you've been through, because not everyone deserves to know. And that's a personal choice that you have to make, and you have to make sure that that person will not judge you for that, because that's the last thing you need. But just knowing that it's okay to struggle, it's okay to feel hurt, it's okay to try and heal, and it's okay to seek help if you need further assistance with that. Therapy has helped me, and it can help you too. And talking about it, I'm noticing now that just talking about it is helping me, because it's showing me that like hopefully I can help someone, just that one person that might have experienced the same thing, or that perhaps just wants to be their most vulnerable. Because trust me, like, even though we get so self-conscious about being vulnerable in front of people, to me, I think that it's the most beautiful, because you're literally letting your walls down. You're letting your walls down completely, and you're telling someone, hey, this is what I've been through. This is what I'm going through. And, you know, this sucks. And that's okay to do that, because first of all, who has everything in life figured out? I know I don't. And no one does. That's the thing. Like, that's the honest truth. No one really does. But I really do feel that, like, it'll really help alleviate you a lot if you just push yourself to speak up. Push yourself to be uncomfortable with someone you trust, of course. And just let out your emotions. Stop trying to cover things all the time and pretending that everything is fine, because it's only hurting yourself more in the long run, and you don't want that. Because if you keep bottling things up, your bottle is going to explode like a soda can, like a soda bottle, and it's not pretty. Because if you bottle things up, if you keep doing that, you'll just explode, and it's not going to be pretty, and then you're going to be like, oh my gosh, where did that come from? It comes from you pushing everything down, avoiding everything that makes you uncomfortable. And I'm here with you, I hear you, and I feel your pain with whatever you have gone through or whatever you are going through, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay. Like, family, friends, they're there for a reason, and hopefully they're there to give you all the support and love that you need to get through that, because that's what's the most important thing, is your mental health and your well-being as a whole, no matter what. And I'm here for you if you don't have that person to rely on, because I definitely can attest that you need absolutely someone and you can hopefully get through it with them. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about our stories. I'll go first. The reason I felt like it was so important for me to share my story on my podcast was mostly because I wanted to hopefully connect with someone out there with a similar story and help them feel less alone in the process. I never once thought that I would ever share it on my podcast on a public platform, but like I said, I am strongly against seeming perfect online, and I don't want to come off that way at all, and I'm preaching that by wearing my pajamas, and I promise I will always continue to be real with you guys, and just continue to be vulnerable with myself online. And I think that the more you let your guard down, the more you will help someone else. And that's what I'm hoping to do by sharing my story. So, on my podcast, I shed the light in difficult situations, right? I'm my ray of sunshine. But for some reason, it does not connect at all with my past, like my past self. And I've always been like a very happy, bubbly person. Like literally how you see me is what you get. Like that's how I am with my friends, my boyfriend, everyone. And I've always been that way since I was like very, very little. Even more so that like my principal once told me like, stop smiling. Like, why are you always smiling all the time? And he would jokingly threaten me to say like, by saying that if I didn't stop smiling, he would give me a detention. And I would just look at him and say, I can't. So that's just like how I've always been. Like I've always loved being positive. I've always been a very, very happy person. I've always loved talking about positivity, writing about it. I mean, I used to write on the newspaper in high school, and I used to write all about positivity all the time. Like it always had to be like a teaching moment, like a little lesson that people can learn, that they can apply to their lives in some way, shape, or form. And here I am with my podcast today, and it's like, it's wild to me to even like think about my past, because even though it does happen, because it's unavoidable, it just does not align. Like you wouldn't even expect it. And that's what I want to come across, is that you really will never expect anything from anyone because you don't truly know their hearts and souls and their stories. And I preach that you do. Don't be pushy. Never mind. I don't want what people take from this podcast to be, oh, I'm going to find out like my friend's story or my boyfriend's story. Like, no, I don't want that to happen. I don't want that. That'll happen in their own time. You can only speak for yourself, and you can only hold yourself accountable for sharing your story. And you can do that by simply embracing it head on and seeking trust and love and support, and just trying to be real. Try to be your most authentic self. And yeah, now thinking about it, how like this episode can become a complete disaster by everyone just being like, why aren't you telling me your story, this and that. But no, don't ever pressure anyone else to tell their stories, besides, pressuring yourself to, if you wanted to. If you're not comfortable with it, it's fine. I am 25 years old. Very rarely have talked about my past. until now. So, like I said, I have always grown up very happy, very bubbly. You would see me, you would never think anything like was wrong. And the truth is, gosh, I just feel like, oh my gosh, I had a feeling this was gonna happen. And that's why I said, why wear makeup, part of the episode. But and also I want you to know that, like, I'm also doing this to heal myself and to hopefully help heal someone else as well. So I just came from like a very broken family, and like I said, no one really would suspect that coming from myself, the happy, bubbly person that people always saw. And the truth is, I had a very bad relationship with my father, and that's so weird. I don't even talk about that, ever. But the truth is, I have been emotionally, physically abused, and it was just a constant thing that led to a lot of trauma in my life. So growing up, that's all I knew. I thought that was normal. I thought everyone, would get hit or get punished or deal with that. And when I just remember asking my friends, and they're like, oh no, our parents don't hurt us, and I always wondered why. And I wasn't sure if it was because I was Hispanic and the little flip-flop that people always joke around about in a Spanish household. But for me, it was beyond torture. And it was not fun whatsoever. And luckily, I never have to see him again because they officially divorced. My parents officially divorced, and I've always been a mommy's girl because of it, because I've just been closer to her. And how could you not when you are going through such a bad, tough relationship with someone who's supposed to care for you? So that's pretty much it. I mean, I have dealt with a lot. I have talked about it. I've been in therapy because of it, and it's what makes me even more mad is the trauma that and the work that I have to do for myself because of someone else's actions. And actions truly do speak louder than words, and I guess it's just, I don't know, it's just always been the case for me where no one really knew what exactly I was going through, and it was just not talked about. We couldn't talk about it. And, I'm sharing it over here, but I think it's mostly the fact that I saw such an escape from my house. I saw school as such an escape from reality. So I would go to school, and I was fine hanging out with my friends, distracted. The second I would come home, it would be a nightmare, to say the least. I have emetophobia because of it, which is a fear of throwing up, because he traumatized me about getting sick, since he would always drink all the time and get sick to the point of getting sick. And then me being little, hearing that, being terrified, and not wanting a part of it. Of course, you're young. But I felt like there's just been so much that I've been like really messed up for because of him. And of course it helps shape the person that I am today, but I wish I didn't have to deal with anxiety. I wish I didn't have to live in fear of getting sick. And believe it or not, it is the most common phobia because everyone throws up, but not many people talk about being scared of throwing up. So it's just been like emotionally draining, mentally draining, and physically draining, because I feel like I was always punished and I was always like the bad kid, and that's far from the truth. So I just feel like it's important to talk about how messed up we can be. Like, how messed up what we think is like, or what we hoped, I should say, could be like a cookie cutter family, like everything's perfect, everyone is fine, nothing's wrong, you know? And it's just very unrealistic. And if that's the case for you, like, be proud of that, because not many people had that. And to be honest, I'm glad that things happened the way they did, because, you know, I never have to see him again, you know? And that's what gives me tranquility. That's what gives me that sense of relief, that I don't have to see him again. And it's okay, because it's not like I'll be abused again. I won't be beaten up, not to death, God, thank God. But I'm not planning on seeing him. I'm not hoping to see him. Like, why would I do that? And I think that that's just something that people have to realize and respect, because when people talk about their rough pasts, or lack of talking about their rough pasts, they put so much judgment in the fact that, like, okay, so you expect divorced parents, okay, when do you see your mom? When do you see your dad? It's never like, oh, it's never normalized, like, oh, you don't see your dad? Why don't you see your dad? And that's what I want to come across in this episode, because you can't do that to people. And I think I speak on behalf of everyone who has divorced parents and who just don't speak to one or the other. It's completely normal. It shouldn't be seen as the worst thing. Like, you shouldn't feel like you're committing a crime for not seeing someone who never respected you and had that respect for you. And it's okay that you don't feel that attachment, that love, that care. I don't care if, yes, he is my father, but I don't care that that's the case. It's not like I miss him or anything. You know, there's like no attachment to that point. Like, it's broken. Our relationship is completely broken, and it cannot ever be repaired. And I just want people to have more respect for other people who have broken families, who may not have in contact with any of their parents, actually. Just normalize it. Why are you going to judge and say, but this is your father or this is your mother, why aren't you seeing them? Like, they're your parents. You should love them. Like, no one can tell you how you feel about someone because no one knows what you've been through. No one knows the trauma that led to your life and you kind of growing from that. No one knows anything. And I just hate when people speak on behalf of just what's normal, what they're used to, and immediately judge when that is not the case and your family is different. It's okay for families to be different. It's 2021. You know, like now families are completely different than how they were back then. And I'm so happy that that's the case because it's never like a cookie cutter perfect family anymore. It's just different dynamics, and that's okay. It's okay to love your family regardless of how they are perceived by everyone else. And bottom line, no one else should be judging your past, your story, besides you. That's really it. And I know it took a lot for me to say my part of the story because, you know, I don't share it often. It's not something that I tell everyone, but I only share it with those who I feel that like will understand or will hold that place for me. And if I don't, I don't. Like it's never a requirement. But I just wanted you guys to know that like nothing is as it seems. No one is how they appear. Like, you would least expect someone so happy, so bubbly, to have so much trauma in her life till now. And luckily, I've been able to heal a little bit, I would say. But it doesn't mean that it's not there. You know, you can't just flip a light switch and pretend like everything's fine. You can't do that. It's impossible for all of us. And like, child abuse is real. It's traumatic to absolutely anyone who has ever experienced that. And my heart truly goes out to you because it's emotionally and physically draining, not like being punished by just like pointing a finger and, you know, bad. You did a bad job. You know, I would have much rather had that happen, but it just happened. It's not something I could have ever controlled. No matter how old I am, no matter how old I was, I had no control over it because children are the most fragile to experience that. And like I said, my heart really does go out to anyone who's just experienced trauma, period. I don't care. Well, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I do care what you've been through, but I don't want to just categorize people who have experienced the same thing as I have, because everyone's story is different. Different variations, different moments, different times, and that's okay. I really just hope that you guys can take away that it's okay to not be okay, and I know that's very oversaid at this point, but it's the truth. It's the honest truth, and one day I will write a book about this and talk about how much this has made me stronger. And I know I didn't share too many details, but it's just something that I wanted to share for my own healing. I don't need, because like we could talk about this all day, but for the sake of the episode, I just want you guys to give people the benefit of the doubt. Try to take the time to understand one another. Respect other people's pasts. respect their family dynamics, respect what they've gone through. Don't judge them like they've judged me plenty of times. And I think that that's why I just stopped telling people, because I always get judged for it. And it's upsetting and it hurts, and it's too late, unfortunately. And the thing that I admire the most about myself is that even though, like, some people take it differently, I still don't let that affect myself. And I keep pushing, and I keep going. If I were to focus all of my life on my past and constantly reevaluate things that could have been different, and seeing how hurt I was and how much trauma I faced in my childhood, and just all of these emotions that don't help uplift me, I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't have my podcast. I don't know where I would have been. I don't know what I would have been up to, but I definitely know that our past never has to define our future, and let alone our present moment. It is never too late to rewrite our own stories. We have so much time to just make a huge difference. We really do. And I'm happy and I'm proud of myself for still being so positive, still being so happy, still waking up every day excited to start the day, and being so energetic in the sense where I'm always excited about new things, new opportunities, a new day, everything. Like, it's truly amazing that has always been something that's been constant in my life. And even in the darkest moments where you wouldn't expect me to be still happy, I was always still happy. I was always positive, and I never changed. I truly never changed. And yes, I've obviously learned lessons. Yes, I have grown as a person, but I haven't changed much from what I faced back then. And in a sense, I am so happy about that. I am very grateful that I still am how I was, and that I am who I am. I'm so grateful that I am who I am, because I am what uplifted myself in my own darkest moments. Whenever I would feel down, whenever I would feel low, and needed a reminder of who I was, what would I do? I would start reading my journal entries, because I love writing in my journal, and just writing about good days and bad days and all in between. And I like to reflect a lot. And I would also read a lot of my newspaper articles that I would write about positivity. And sometimes that just serves as a reminder for myself that I am, like, the only person in this world. Like, there's no one else in this world that is like me. Has everything, has all my experiences, has my personality. Like, we are all so incredibly unique that we forget how special we are. We really do forget how special we are. And I think we have to have so much self-love to realize that, and to recognize that, and to own it, and to not let anything that could change your life to hold you back, to keep you from striving for opportunities, to keep you from being successful, to keep you from just experiencing life as a whole. You can't and you shouldn't allow that to hold you back. You really should ask for help where it's needed to heal, to grow from that, and to get better. And that's what should be the lesson, the big takeaway. And just to continue having your own story, continue owning your own story. I mean, for the longest time, it was so hard for me to talk about my past. And I mean, it's hard even recording this episode, but I need this. And I hope that something resonates with you, anything that I've talked about, because that's the goal. That's the reason I'm here. That's the reason I'm talking to you guys. And I definitely do think that this is all a growing experience for all of us. And we shouldn't hide our most authentic selves. And I repeat, that doesn't mean you have to share to the world and be uncomfortable. But just remember that it's important. Your story is important. Everyone's story is important. And, you just have to own it. And you never know who you could be helping while you share. And you never know who may need to be uplifted seeing how much you have grown from that experience. Because you will continue growing and growing and growing, and it'll amaze you every single day. And I know my 9-year-old self would be really proud. And I think it's just important that we just be kinder to ourselves, be more loving, and most importantly, just continue admiring how far we've come and how we still are getting up. We're still trying. Life is chaotic. Absolutely chaotic. It's crazy. And surprisingly, when I think of the darkest times, my lowest points, they were not in my childhood. They were in my 20s. Well, specifically from 23 to maybe even 25 to right now. These 20s have been insane. Absolutely insane. It just takes a lot for you to learn about yourself. It takes a lot for you to learn about the world, about your career. There's so many things. But it's not impossible to just continue pushing and continue striving to get to know yourself and to keep falling in love with life and to continue motivating yourself to keep going no matter how difficult it can be in the moment, no matter how hard it is to even think about your story. And I really truly am sending so much love, so much love, so much love to all of you, because we never truly know. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And people surprise us every single day. So just continue looking things from a different perspective, a more positive perspective. Hopefully I gave you hope that things can get better. Hopefully you took something away from this episode. And I know I was vulnerable, but then again, bringing down those walls helps. And I feel so much better. Like, I feel so much calmer and a lot more excited to release this, to be honest. In the beginning of the episode, I was very nervous to talk about this, and I was like, what am I doing? And then in the middle of talking about it, I'm like, I'm not going to post this. But then I'm like, why? It's me. It's who I am. And let me rephrase that. It doesn't define me, but it's an experience that happened to me, and it's okay for me to own that and to acknowledge it and not ignore it anymore. What's the use of ignoring it? What's the use of pretending it's not there when it is? And by you acknowledging it could really help someone else. Oh man, deep topic. I really hope this podcast made you smile at least once. ? Stay tuned for more advice and positivity next Friday. As always, it's Mayra. I hope that you guys feel the love that I'm sending, feel the strength that I'm sending you all as well, and genuinely embrace being your most authentic and beautiful selves. I love you guys. I appreciate your support. I am here to support you. And remember, we all have our own stories. We just have to take the time to listen and tell it. That's pretty much it. Bye!